Hello everyone, this is Dave from Dave's Recent Things. Why the tie today? Because we are celebrating. What are we celebrating? We are celebrating another year has gone by here at Dave's Recent Things. 2025 is coming really close to the end, and I want to celebrate by doing my usual selection of top 5 wreaths of the year. So today on Dave's Recent Things, celebrating the end of 2025, Dave's Top 5 Faves. Why don't I just get started and I'll show you what I selected. I'm going to be using the 14-inch wire wreath frame. This comes from the Dollar Tree. Some 10-inch by 10-yard deco mesh in brown and beige. 2.5-inch wired ribbon in various patterns and colors, along with some pipe cleaners just in white, and of course, my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. Here is our material list of everything that I'm going to be using. You can take a little screenshot and use it as your shopping list. We're going to start making a working wreath frame. So I have my wire wreath frame here, and this one has 4 wires that go all the way around the frame, and it has crossbars every now and then, creating 6 sections. So I'm going to work on one section, and I'm going to add 3 pipe cleaner stems to this one section. I'm first going to add 1 in the inner 2, and then I'm going to add 2 on the outer 2 wires. So my first one again is on the inner 2 wires. I'm just going to take a full length pipe cleaner. These are about 12 inches in length, wrap it around a couple of times, and then I'm going to add 2 on those 2 outside wires, wrapping them around a couple of times, and then again adding that second one on there. So this is going to create 3 stems per section. We have 6 sections, so that's going to be 18 stems in total, so 18 pipe cleaners. And then I'm just going to proceed doing the same thing for all the other sections. And once I am done with that, we have our working wreath frame all completed with 6 stems on the inside, and then we have a total of 12 stems on the outside, which again is our grand total of 18 working stems on our working wreath frame. And I'm going to be using my cutting mat today and a rotary cutter. If you don't have that, a ruler and scissors work perfectly fine for this. Or if you want, you can use your burning tool as well. But please note, use that burning tool with a clear glass cutting board. You don't want to do that right on top of your cutting mat. I'm going to overlap my 2 pieces of deco mesh, and today I'm going to be cutting at 20 inches. That's our magic number for the day. Once I measure out the 20 inches, I just take my rotary cutter and cut it, put those off to the side. And again, I'm using 10-inch by 10-yard deco mesh. We are doing the folded ruffle method today. So I have 2 colors, beige and brown. For each one, I'm cutting 18 pieces at that 20-inch mark. So I'm using 20 yards of our deco mesh. And I'm just going to continuing on cutting that deco mesh until it is all used up. And then since I'm cutting, I'm going to cut my ribbon at 12 inches. I have 3 different ribbons that I'm using today. This is a white striped burlap ribbon. I also have this white polka dotted burlap ribbon. And again, I'm cutting this at the 12-inch mark. And I have a burlap solid ribbon as well, cut at 12 inches. So again, I have the 3 different styles of ribbons, striped, polka dot, and burlap. I'm cutting 6 pieces at 12-inch lengths. So you're going to need approximately 6 yards of ribbon. This is the ribbon we're going to add to our base wreath. This doesn't include the bow that we're going to make a little bit later on. Once I've got all my ribbon cut, I'm just going to overlap 2 pieces of ribbon, fold it in half, align the edges, grab my scissors, cut on an angle, and this is going to create a little finishing touch called a dovetail. I've heard it called a fishtail as well. Whichever you use, I say dovetail, and I'm going to do that on both ends of all of the ribbon that we just cut as well. It adds a little finishing touch to them, and I love using that dovetail method. Now it's time to start creating our folded ruffles. I'm using 2 pieces of deco mesh per bundle. So here you can see my deco mesh is curl side up, and I also have the manufactured edges at the top and the bottom with our cuts at the left and the right hand side. All we're going to do is take the left hand side, fold it over about 1/3. We're going to line up the top and the bottom manufacturer's edges as you see that I'm doing here. And then we're going to take that right hand side and fold it over as well. But I'm going to leave a little gap of about 1 inch towards the edge from our cut edge. Then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, grab those edges, flip it over. So now our folded portion is at the base. Take my thumbs, anchor them right down at the middle, and guess what? Our fingers are gonna walk gathering that deco mesh, and this is creating our folded ruffle wreath. So again, it looks like a bow tie. Then I'm gonna come to my first available stem, open it up, place that folded ruffle right in there, wrap those pipe cleaner stems right around, giving it a good couple of twists. I usually twist 3 or 4 times, and we have that first attachment on there. Now to complete the bundle, I'm going to do the exact same method, fold it over 1/3, fold it over again, leaving about 1 inch. Then we're going to rotate it 90 degrees, flip it, anchor those thumbs right at the center, gather right at the center, and we're going to place that right on top of our previous one. Now, my previous one I did on one angle. This one I'm going to do kind of on a different angle so it's crisscross to the previous one. And then I'm going to move on to my next bundle, and you can see here I'm alternating between colors. So the first bundle that I did was the brown at the bottom with the beige deco mesh on top. This time with my next one, I'm going to do the beige deco mesh at the bottom and then the brown at the top, folding it over, turning it 90 degrees, and then we're going to flip that over, anchor those thumbs, gather it together, and then place it in a crisscross pattern on top of our previous one, just using the same pipe cleaner stem, wrapping it around a couple times, making sure it is nice and secure. Now, I'm using 2 different colors of deco mesh. You can use the same color if you want. You can use any colors that you want. Today, I'm doing a neutral colored theme, so it's kind of beiges, burlap colors, and of course, our white as well. And again, I am just attaching those bundles using the colors kind of going opposite of one another within each bundle. I'm using 1 brown and 1 beige deco mesh. Once that first row is all done, look at how full this is so far. I mean, I know I say it a lot, but I just love when everything comes together. I love how full this is. If you've been watching me a while, you know I love a full wreath. Let's grab those ribbons again. All I'm going to do is fold the ribbon in half, find my center point, anchor the thumbs, gather it together, fold it into a V shape, kind of pinch it right at the end. It's a wired ribbon, so it'll hold its shape. And then I'm going to grab my first available pipe cleaner, and I'm going to add that little V-shaped ribbon we just created. And I'm just going to twist that pipe cleaner around, again, 3 or 4 times. Grab those scissors, cut the excess off, and then I'm going to push the excess to the back, fluff up my ribbon a little bit, and then I'm just going to move on to my next one. I'm using 3 different kinds of ribbons, so I'm going to alternate. My pattern is striped, polka dot, burlap, striped, polka dot, burlap, and I'm going to add those all on the 12 outside stems that we have created. Again, attaching it on there, twisting it, cut the excess off, fluff it up a bit, move on to the next one. So this is my pattern that I'm going to do. And once I'm all done adding those ribbons on there, you'll kind of see in a few minutes what that looks like for our first little row. And here it is with my ribbon added on our first row. And I'm even happier now. I was happy without the ribbon, but now I'm even happier. I love how this turned out. And of course, you can kind of see me fluffing up my ribbon as always here at Dave's Recent Things. And now we're going to work on the center. So we're doing the exact same process we did on the outside. We're creating our bundles. I'm using a brown deco mesh to start. And then I'm going to work on the inside stems, adding that brown deco mesh on there first, grabbing that beige deco mesh, folding it over, rotating it, and then we're going to flip it, gather it together, and then add it on top of our brown deco mesh using the same stem in a crisscross pattern. And then I'm just going to finish off completing the center with my deco mesh. Here it is all done, and of course I'm fluffing it up a bit, and I am all smiles because this is exactly how I wanted it to turn out in my mind. So now again we're going to do the same thing, taking that ribbon, folding it in half, pinching it in a V shape, come to our first available stem and adding that ribbon on there. Once it's twisted a couple of times, take those scissors, cut the excess off, push the excess down, and then we can fluff up our ribbon. And there's 6 stems on the middle, so we're using the 6 pieces of ribbon. Once that's all done, here it is again, and I am just so excited to get this wreath finished. But of course, before we finish the wreath, there is bow making and fluffing that's going to happen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rest of my ribbon in the same 3 patterns, and I'm going to cut each piece at 20 inches. My ruler is only 18 inches long, so I just measure 18, measure another 2, and then boom, we have our 20 inches. I'm going to do that for all 3 ribbon that I have. So again, we're going to do a bundle bouquet. It's called a bundle or a bouquet bow, whichever one you want. Each piece of ribbon, I'm doing 3 pieces cut at 20 inches. For just the bow, you're going to need 5 yards. And then what I'm going to do is the dovetail method again, and I'm only going to do this on one side of the ribbon. The other side we can leave straight. We don't need it. Once that's all done, I'm going to have 2 pipe cleaners and a cable tie just off to the side. We're going to grab our ribbon, and the dovetail portions are going to be on the right hand side, the straight portion on the left. Have the good side facing down. Fold it over on the left hand side about 2/3, then come over about an inch, gather it together, and then you've just created a tail and a loop. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my 2 fingers and hold that all together. Then I'm going to grab my next piece of ribbon, fold it over about 2/3 of the way, come over about an inch from the edge, gather it. That again creates our tail and our loop, and I'm just going to hold that in my hand, and I'm going to work my way through all of our ribbon. So again, that's 9 pieces of ribbon, so we're going to create 9 tails and 9 loops. Now, if you don't want to hold it in your hands, you can get a large paper clip or a large clip of some kind and just clip those together instead of having it all in your hands. Now, once that's all gathered together, I'm going to take my cable tie and just place that right above my fingers, and I'm not going to close it fully. I'm just going to leave it a little bit open so I can fit my pipe cleaners in there. So I'm putting 1 pipe cleaner on one side, another pipe cleaner on the other side, so I have 2 pipe cleaners for our wreath attachment. Close that cable tie, cut the excess off, and then I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm just going to have all my tails fluffed out. Of course, you know, it is Dave's recent things. It is fluffing time. You know I'm going to fluff. I fluff up my loops. I fluff up my tails a little bit. Once that's all done and I'm happy, we have our bow ready for our wreath. And to attach it, I'm going to take those 2 pipe cleaners that we attached to our bow. My bow is going to go right in the center, and then I'm just going to feed my pipe cleaners right through the back, attach it to the wire just by twisting it a couple of times, and then I'm going to do the other side, the exact same method, twisting it around the wire on the back side. Once that's all done, I'm going to do round number 2 of fluffing, because you know I gotta fluff. I can't help it. It happens. Here is our beautiful neutral color folded ruffle wreath. I am so happy with it, and I hope you are too. And like I said in my intro, it's a great wreath that you can have and carry on and transition from occasion to occasion. Hang it up for the fall. It'll take you through Halloween. It'll take you through Thanksgiving. It'll take you through Christmas even. It's a neutral color. It has a little bit of sparkle on there, so you can just use this for any occasion or just hang it up every single day of the year. For our last episode, I'm going to be using an 18-inch grapevine wreath. And of course, I found these flocked bunnies. They have been so popular over the last couple of years, along with a flocked egg. I'm going to be using a ton of greenery today and some of these beautiful, gorgeous roses that I got from the dollar store and some more roses in different colors. Of course, my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. What I'm going to do first is place my flocked bunny down along with my egg. And all I'm going to do for this is kind of place it where I want. I know I want the bunny off on the right-hand side. Once I've got that all in place, I'm going to add a lot of hot glue. I am not wiring the bunny down. I figured there's a lot of contact points for the bunny and the egg to glue down. And you can see I'm putting more glue on there. And now I'm going to attach the egg to the bunny and to the wreath itself. Now you can use wire. You can wrap the wire around the neck if you want. I also turned it over and I added some more hot glue right on the back side just to kind of let it drip in between and onto the bunny to make sure it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to move on to my greenery. Like I said, I had so many different kinds of greenery. The biggest amount of greenery that I had was these ferns. I loved these ferns, and these just come from the Dollar Tree. And all I'm really going to do is I'm going to take apart a couple and I'm going to leave 3 or 4 of them together. And then I'm just going to insert them into the grapevine wreath itself. And I'm going to add some hot glue. I don't want this to go anywhere. If you want, you don't need the hot glue. You can just stick it into the grapevine branches there and take it out for your next wreath or replace it with new stuff. It's totally up to you. I decided to actually glue everything down. This wreath is definitely going on my front door this year. I had this idea for a while and I know I really wanted to do it. Once I get all the ferns in there, I'm going to add some ficus leaves, and all I'm doing is I'm just kind of placing them around, and then I'm going to add some glue and sticking them into the branches as well. I'm going to take a couple of different colors, a couple of different styles of leaves, just to change it up a little bit so it doesn't seem so much greenery in there. I wanted a lot of greenery, but I also wanted interest and I wanted change of colors. So I am using a lot of different colors, and here is the final result of our greenery background with our Easter bunny. Of course, I'm not just going to leave it all green. I am going to put roses in there, and I wanted to kind of follow a purple lavender theme, if you will. Those roses are the focal points, so they've got kind of a pinky lavendery hue to them, so I decided I'm going to use those, along with some smoky purpley roses, some purple roses, and all I decided to do was do a dry run. So you just saw me adding them all in there, and once it's all added in there and I'm happy with the placement of everything, I start gluing everything down. So I'm just taking those roses, the florals, adding a lot of hot glue on the back, and then I'm just going to stick them right into the leaves, right into the grapevine branches as well, to make sure they're all nice and secure. Of course, there's different color flocked bunnies at Michael's. You can choose whichever color you want, and then you can match it with the same color, kind of a monochromatic wreath, if you will, like I'm doing here. Or you can do something completely different, all full of color, different color, florals, greenery, etc. But our final result, and I know this is a really quick video and I'm sorry, but there really wasn't much to assemble this wreath today, but it's something that I really wanted to do, and I always love doing a showstopper wreath for our bonus episode of our Wreathmas Week. And I truly believe that this is a total showstopper for our little finale of our Wreathster Week 2025. I'm going to be using the small wreath board from Unique in the Creek. I have this extra large wide foil 10-inch by 10-yard deco mesh, this metal sign that says Simply Best, some 2.5-inch wired ribbon in various colors and patterns, some cable ties, these are just 6 inches long, pipe cleaners, and these are cable mounts. I'm going to use those for our sign, along with some contact cement and my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. I have rolled out my deco mesh, got my cutting mat, and of course now we're going to pick our magic number of the day, and that is 10. So today we are cutting our deco mesh at the 10-inch mark. So remember that, 10 inches deco mesh. So I'm going to take my rotary cutter and I'm just going to cut that deco mesh at 10 inches. I get asked a lot about fraying on deco mesh. I do use a wood burning tool from occasion time to time, but I wouldn't use it on this wide foil mesh. I've tried it before. It's a little bit messy and melty, and also I wouldn't use it on burlap as well, so that natural burlap. Now I am using the 10 inch by 10 yard poly deco mesh. It's the extra large wide foil edging. Say that 10 times fast. And I'm cutting 36 pieces at that 10 inch mark using the entire roll. So I'm going to continue on doing all of my cuts at that 10 inch mark, and I'm using the whole roll like I said previously. I'm going to cut my ribbon using my little measure buddy. If you haven't used one before, it's great. It has two sides that expand, and all you really have to do is you can use 1 and 2. I'm just going to use the one side because that's going to give us 12 inches. Today I'm cutting my ribbon at the 12-inch mark. You can kind of see right here, I'm measuring it out for you. And if you need it to be bigger, you can use side number 2 as well. All I do is I line up my ribbon, then I start wrapping it around. It's really that easy. At the end, I cut it off, squish down the buddy a little bit, take it out, take my scissors and cut at both ends, and boom, we have all of our cuts done for our brown ribbon. If you don't have the measure buddy, then you can use a ruler and a pair of scissors like I'm showing you right here with the cream colored. And I also have a glittery ribbon that I love a lot, and I'm going to cut that at 12 inches. So it's 2.5 inch wired ribbon I'm using today. 3 different colors. I've got a glittery, a beige embossed, and then I've got the brown one. 16 pieces cut at 12 inches, and I'm using approximately 16 yards of the ribbon. And then I always love to finish my ribbon off doing a dovetail. All I do is fold it in half, cut it on an angle, and then you got that beautiful finishing touch of the dovetail. And I'm going to do that for all of my ribbon on both sides of the ribbon so it's nice and finished. And once that's all done, I'm going to put it aside and I'm going to prep my sign. Now this is a metal sign, so I don't suggest using your hot glue for the metal signs. It will just peel off. What I am going to use is a cable mount, which has a little hole in there and a little bit of that contact cement on the back. And then I'm just going to flip that sign over and attach it to the back. Now for my glue, it asks you to dry for 24 hours. So I prepped this ahead of time. I put it right in the center. Once it's all dry, all you have to do is feed that pipe cleaner right through that hole at the back. Twist it around a couple of times, and how easy is this? We have our attachment all ready to hang our sign on our beautiful wreath. And of course, speaking of our wreath, is it time to make that wreath? Yes, it is. Here is our board. Now, you'll notice the board, it does measure about 12 inches, and this is the smaller board. So there is a larger one as well. I'm using the smaller one. And it has holes on rows 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those 2 holes in the center, that's where we're going to attach our sign. So we're just going to forget about that right now. And you'll notice there's a slew of holes at the top. Now there's 2 extra ones, because normally they come in pairs. These 2 extra ones at the top, that's where we're going to use that hanger. So we're going to do a cable tie later on to hang the wreath. Other than that, we're going to use the outside round. So here is my wreath board. I'm grabbing 2 pieces of deco mesh and a cable tie. And what I'm going to be doing, again, don't forget those holes. That signifies the top. So I'm going to be using the pairs. So you can see the pairs going all the way around. And I'm going to feed that cable tie right through my first pair at the top. You can kind of see here it's not closed off. And then I'm just going to grab a clip for now. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my deco mesh and I'm just going to roll it up into a tube. I'm going to grab that clip, hold it together, put it off to the side, do my second mesh the exact same way. We're just going to roll it up into a tube shape, or as I like to say, cannoli. And then we're just going to piece those together. I'm going to squish it down, gather it right in the center, and then I'm going to fold it over into a fan shape. Then I'm just going to grasp that, make sure it's nice and tight, place that right in between those cable ties, and then I'm going to close that cable tie off, pull it nice and tight, and then once that's nice and tight on there, I'm going to grab my scissors and just cut the excess off. Now, when I got halfway done, I was worried about the deco mesh, so I decided to change up how I attached it together. So you see here, I rolled up my 2 pieces of deco mesh, gather it in the center, and now I'm going to put a cable tie right in the center to keep them together. That way, they're not going to come apart. I did half of it without the cable tie in the center, and I was really worried that they would come apart. So what I decided to do was I'm going to attach it first with the cable tie, and then I'm going to feed it right through that cable tie on the wreath board, attaching it. So now I know it's not going to come apart and it's not going to fall off. So I'm just going to continue on doing that. I redid the other ones I did previously with the cable tie in the middle. This is my last one going on here, and I am loving how that foil mesh really comes to life with this side curl method. It really emphasizes those edges, and I'm in love with it. Now our mesh is all done. Time to move on to our next section. So we have our mesh done. We're going to grab our ribbon, another cable tie, and we're going to add our ribbon. And now this time we're going to use row number 2, and you can see there's pairings and singles all the way around. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the pairing, skip the single, use the pairing, skip the single, use the pairing, and I'm going to do that same pattern all the way around. So I'm going to start with my first pairing, feed that cable tie right through there. Of course, it took me a long time to do that. I'm just sitting here watching it going, geez, Dave, why aren't you going faster than that? And then I'm going to lay my ribbon just right on top of each other. I'm going to use 3 pieces of ribbon per cable tie. I'm going to gather it in the center, and the exact same way I did the deco mesh, I'm putting a cable tie right in the center, pulling it nice and tight to make sure that ribbon doesn't come loose at all. Then I'm going to bend it into like a fan shape or a V shape, fluff it up a little bit, kind of bend it right at that point, and then same as the deco mesh, I'm going to place it right in between those cable ties, and then I'm just going to snap it together, fluff it up a little bit before I pull it really tight. Once I'm happy with it, then I'm going to yank that cable tie nice and tight so that ribbon's not going to go anywhere, and cut off the excess. So now again, we're going to skip that single hole, and I'm going to come back and do the ribbon at the double hole. So I'm overlapping my ribbon, finding my center, gathering it together, grab that cable tie, add that right around the center so it keeps that ribbon nice and secured, cut the excess off. I'm going to fold it over into a fan shape or a V shape if you want, pinching it right at that cable tie, creating that little V. And of course, I forgot to preload my cable tie, so I have to do that now. And then I add in that ribbon bundle right in between those 2 cable ties, pull it nice and tight, cut the excess off, and then I'm going to finish doing that whole round the exact same way, overlapping my ribbon. And of course, for me, I'm alternating between which ribbon is on top and which is on bottom. And now we're going to work on our 3rd row. So we've got the 2nd row of ribbon done. This is our 2nd row of ribbon on the 3rd row. Feeding that cable tie through, grabbing that ribbon, overlapping each other, and then gathering it right in the center, adding that cable tie to keep it all together, just really doing the same process over and over again on that 3rd row, really filling up that wreath with this gorgeous ribbon. And like I said, that glittery ribbon has to be my favorite ribbon. I loved working with it. I love how it looks. And here I am just continuing on, doing all of my ribbons, adding them on there. Once it's all done, you can just see how that beautiful ribbon comes together. And of course, we all know it's fluffing time. On Dave's Recent Things, we love to fluff up our ribbons. We love to fluff up our mesh, our bows, and this is no exception. There was a ton of ribbons, so I was in my glory. For our sign, we're going to use those 2 holes right in the center, but before I attach it, I just want to flip the wreath over, and we're going to add that cable tie right at the top. I spoke about it earlier before, those 2 holes right at the top. I'm going to feed a cable tie through there. I'm going to let it click a couple of times. I'm not going to close it off. That's going to give us the hanger for our wreath. So we can hang this on our door on a hook, or if you have a wreath hanger, that's perfect. So now I know where the top of my wreath is. It's time to attach my sign just by feeding those pipe cleaner ends through the center 2 holes. I'm going to make sure it's nice and center. Everything looks nice and fluffed up. Fold it over, twist it over a couple of times, and then I'm just going to feed the excess back through those holes because we're not going to see it anyways. And then whammo, look at that. Our Simply Blessed Deco Mesh and Ribbon Wreath is all done, ready to hang on our front door for the holidays. I love this palette of colors. It just came together so nice. And again, that orange foil in that deco mesh really came to life with this side curl method. And I love all of that ribbon in there, especially, of course, that glittery one that I've talked about so many times already. But here it is on my door in all of its glory, just saying to everybody, I am simply blessed for having all of the viewers like you. For our watermelon theme, I'm using this oval wreath board. I am going to be using 10" by 10" deco mesh with some metallic strips, this metal sign that looks like flip-flops with a watermelon theme, a Hello Summer watermelon theme sign, also some 1.5" and as well 2.5". Both are wired ribbon. They have a watermelon theme also. Notice the theme? Some cable ties, some color coordinating pipe cleaners, and of course my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. I am going to first start off, I have my cutting mat, I have my glass cutting board, and I have my burning tool all ready to go. If you don't have that, a rotary cutter, scissors, and a ruler work perfectly fine as well. Today I am going to use my burning tool, and our lucky number is 18. So we will be cutting our deco mesh today at the 18" mark. I'm just going to lay it all out, use my rock tools as a guide, and I'm going to cut at that 18" mark. So today we are using the ruffle method. I am using 10" by 10" deco mesh. This has a couple of metallic green stripes in it, and I'm cutting 20 pieces at 18", so that's using the entire roll of our deco mesh. And again, using that burning tool to seal those edges. I'm also going to cut my ribbon at 14". So here I have a 1.5" wired ribbon, black and white watermelon theme, a green embossed, another watermelon theme. This is 2.5" and another 2.5" of that checkered green. So here are my ribbon cut lengths. I'm using 1.5" and 2.5" wired ribbon. Ribbon number 1 and 2 is 5 pieces each, cut at 14". That's the 1.5". And then ribbon number 3 and 4, that's the 2.5" wired ribbon, 5 pieces each at that 14" mark. Then I'm going to fold them in half, line up those edges, and if you've never done a dovetail before, all you do is fold it in half, cut on an angle that you want, and it'll create a little finishing edge for you. The narrower your scissors are on an angle, the less deep, or the shallower the cut, the more of an angle of your scissors, the deeper the cut will be for your dovetails. Sparrow tails, fish tails, however you want to call it. Here is our wreath board, and you notice there's holes all the way going around. If we flip it over on the back side, you can see lines that indicate row number 1, 2, and 3. We have our outside row, our middle row, and then we have our inside row. As well, you're going to notice a couple of holes right at the top. Now, on the other side, there is no holes. What these 2 holes are to put the cable tie pipe cleaner to hang your wreath. For us, the first thing we're going to start with is the 2 outside rows. That's going to be the outer row, and I'm going to use the 2 holes. Then I'm going to skip a row. Then I'm going to use the 2 outside holes, and I'm going to show you with the marker. Now, I always mark my wreath boards when I do them, just because once you get everything in there, it helps a lot easier down the road. And we're going to do 10 of those sections. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the outside. And then we're going to come on the inside, and we're only going to use one hole instead of a double hole. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go in that space in between, and I'm going to circle those singular holes. We're going to skip one, circle, skip one, circle, so on and so forth, all the way around on that inner side. And again, we have 10 of those circles. 10 plus 10, that equals 20. That's the amount of cuts we did for our deco mesh. Once we have that all formed and laid out, now I'm going to take my cable tie. I'm going to insert one end on the outer side. One end I'm going to insert back into the second row. So row number 1 we're inserting, row number 2 we are placing it back, and we're not going to put those cable ties together. So we're going to skip a row, come to the next row that we mark, and do the exact same thing. Feed one end of the cable tie through, pop it through, back again through that middle hole, and again, do not close that cable tie. We're going to skip a hole, and of course we're going to do this same method for 10 cable ties all the way around the outside 2 rows. So here it is all attached. I have my cable ties all through my 2 double holes all around. And just to let you know how it looks when it's sideways, nothing is closed. Our cable ties are fully opened. Of course, now comes the fun part. Grab your ribbon. I'm going to grab my 2.5-inch wired ribbon, and I'm also going to grab a 1.5-inch wired ribbon. Per section or per bundle, I'm using 2 pieces of ribbon. So I'm going to overlap them, fold them in half, find my center, gather it together in that center crease I just created, pull them together, creating a little V shape, and then I'm just going to pinch that little corner of the V shape just to really enhance that V shape. Now it's going to stay that way because it's a wired ribbon. Then we're going to take our deco mesh, lay it flat with the curl side facing down. I'm going to use a little rock here. You can use scissors or whatever you want. We're going to find our center first, and then we're going to plant those thumbs right down. So there's kind of like an anchor. And then guess what? We're going to let those fingers do the walking. We're going to gather it all together with our fingers right down the center, following that middle. And you can see here it creates a little bow tie shape, and that's our ruffle. Now I'm going to take my ribbon bundle, place it into my right hand, so I have my left hand free, and I'm going to go to my first available cable tie that's open. I'm going to place that right in the middle there, and then I'm going to take the 2 ends, match them together, pull them through, but I'm not going to pull them all the way through very tight, because this is going to give me ample time to move it all around, get it how I want it placed, the ribbons, etc., etc. And what I want to do with the ribbons is I want to have the V shape facing out. So the narrowest part facing in and the widest facing out. Once I'm happy with it, I yank it really tight, and then I'm going to cut off the excess. And we have our first little bundle all created. Now we're going to go on to the second bundle. We're going to repeat the same method. I'm going to use a 2.5-inch and a 1.5-inch wired ribbon. Find the middle, fold it in half, create that V shape, grab my 10-inch deco mesh, curl side down, anchor those thumbs, let the fingers do the walking to create that beautiful ruffle, find our middle, and then bring together everything. And then we're going to put it all together in that next available cable tie. We're not going to tie it tight just yet. We're just going to fluff everything up a little bit, and then once I'm happy with how everything goes, pull it really tight, and then cut the excess off. We've got 2 bundles down, 8 more to go on our outside round, and I'm just going to continuing on, doing the same method of procedure, attaching everything on that outside. And here I am putting the last little one on there. This is the outside. Once that's all done, I'm going to work on my inside. And this is where circling your holes really comes in handy. I don't have to fuss around. I know exactly where I'm going to put those cable ties. This time around, I'm only going to place the cable tie through the hole, and I'm not going to attach it together again, so I'm not closing that loop. I'm going to leave it open. And then I'm going to come to the next available one that I've circled, put the cable tie through, and I'm going to do that for all the insides. I'm just going to put in that singular one, and then once it comes time to add our bundles, we do the exact same method of procedure we did before creating our bundles. With that 2.5-inch ribbon, the 1.5-inch ribbon, we're going to gather the 10-inch deco mesh with our fingers, put those together, and then place it right in between those two openings that we have right here. I shouldn't say two openings. It's one opening with one cable tie. Pardon me, I've got pneumonia brain. But there we go. That's how we do the inside. And we do the same thing. So we have our ribbons with the widest V-shape facing out and the shortest V-shape facing in. I want all that ribbon to kind of come and flow out from the center, if you will. And then once I'm done, I've got that center done, I've got the outside done, and now, of course, you know me, I'm going to start fluffing those ribbons even before I'm done. But here is our wreath all set up. The base is done, and now, of course, we're going to work on some of our signs. The metal sign that I have here, it has a little kind of a hook or attachment on the back, which is perfect because all I'm going to do is I'm going to feed a pipe cleaner right through that, twist it a couple of times, and that's how I'm going to attach it to our wreath board. For our Hello Summer sign, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue just in a couple of rows on the outside, add those pipe cleaners in that glue, use my handy dandy tool that I love so much, and then we're going to add a little bit more hot glue right at the end, wait for that all to dry, and then once that's all dry, we can attach it all together. Here we have everything together, and a couple of final steps. Do you remember those two holes I explained to you right at the beginning of the video where we're going to hang our wreath from? I'm going to grab another cable tie, feed it through one of the holes, then I'm going to feed it through that opposite hole coming through again, just like we did before with that first row. Again, put it through together, let it click a couple times, maybe 3 or 4 times, don't close it fully. Cut off the excess, and I'll show you in 2 seconds. We created a little loop for you to hang your wreath. So a great idea on these wreath boards. Love this idea. And now it is time for us to hang those beautiful signs on there. I have a little hole available right at the top there. That's where I'm going to hang my little flip-flops. I'm going to feed the pipe cleaners through the hole, twist it on the back side, make sure everything is how I want it. Then I'm going to do the same thing for our Hello Summer sign. So I'm just feeding those pipe cleaners right through the back, attaching them through the holes, and then just twisting them a couple of times to make sure it's nice and secure. Once I'm happy with the placement, I flip it over, make sure everything's good, flip it back over again, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut the excess of those pipe cleaners off. And then, of course, you know the drill, fluff, fluff, fluff. Yes, even with pneumonia, I am still fluffing my wreaths. Now, to fill those 2 little holes, I always have like these little beads that I have. They're like little pearl beads in different sizes. So I find a size that works, add a little bit of hot glue, and then I just insert that over the hole. And that's a great way, great little tip to cover up those holes and just add a little finishing touch to your beautiful wreath. And here is our Hello Summer watermelon wreath with our green and red deco mesh. I love the green metallic on this deco mesh. Our 4 different ribbons, of course, our 2 signs, all a beautiful watermelon theme. I said to you earlier on, it was kind of gray and foggy and gross this week, and this really just took me out of that, I don't know, spring blah and made me happy, made me... Today I will be using the large wreath board from Unique in the Creek, along with this black poly deco mesh and red poly deco mesh. I have this kit. It's a costume dragon kit. It has a mask, wings, and a tail in red and black, along with these glass little eyeballs. Both of these items I got from Temu, some black pipe cleaners and cable ties, some felt that I had laying around in my stash, and of course my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. First thing I'm going to do is cut my deco mesh. I'm using a mat and a rotary cutter. If you have a ruler and scissors, that works totally fine as well. And I'm going to be cutting my deco mesh at 10 inches. So that's the magic number today, is 10 inches. So I'm just going to use my rotary cutter and cut that deco mesh at that 10-inch mark. I'm cutting the black first, and I'm also cutting red deco mesh. This is 10-inch by 10-yard rolls. And again, I'm using 10-inch by 10 yards poly deco mesh. For the black deco mesh, I'm cutting 32 pieces at 10 inches. For the red, 18 pieces at 10 inches. So that's one roll of each of the black and red deco mesh to create our dragon wreath today. And I just continue on cutting and putting those pieces to the side, and then we're going to make our scales next. So I'm taking a piece of deco mesh along with one of my cable ties, and again, this is a 10-inch by 10-inch square piece of deco mesh that we cut with the manufacturer's edges at the top and the bottom, cut edges at the left and the right. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it such that now it's a diamond shape. And then what I'm going to do is take that bottom point and bring it right up to the top point, and we're going to create a little triangle here. And I'm just going to push down the seam or the fold just a little bit to keep that shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it to the right hand side. So you can see the folds at the bottom, points at the top, and now our fold is at the left and our point is facing right. I'm going to take that top corner, bring it down to the bottom corner, so we're creating another triangle. Our fold is still going to be on that left hand side, and I want to make sure that's all nice and aligned when I do this fold. I'm going to push it down just a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is turn it to the left so the point is at the left and our fold is at the left as well. Then we're going to take that point at the top, bring it down to the point at the bottom. Our fold is still at the left-hand side there, and then I'm just going to lay it flat, and it's going to create a little curve or a little scale for you. Now the point is facing up. I'm just going to hold it down with my left hand while I prep my cable tie. I'm just going to feed it through, pull it a couple of times till I hear some clicks. You'll see there's a little loop right there, and then I'm going to come in about maybe an inch and a half from that right hand side point, and I'm going to gather the mesh together with my left hand, and with my right I'm going to feed that cable tie, and then I'm just going to pull it nice and tight, making sure all the deco mesh is in there, and cut off the excess, and we've created our first little scale. So you can see it has a nice little curved edge there where our folds are, and then it has a little S curve on the right hand side. So that is our first scale done. We're going to do this one more time with the manufacturer's edge at the top and bottom, twist it to make a diamond, fold it in half to make that triangle so our point is facing upwards. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to turn that, fold on the left, point at the right, bring that top point down to create another triangle, fold at the left hand side, and then we're going to turn it around again, pointing to the left with the fold at the left. And then we're just going to fold it over again, creating another scale. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to hold it with my left, place that cable tie together, creating a loop, come in, gather it, place that cable tie on there, pull nice and tight, cut off the excess, and we created a second scale. So I'm going to do black and red for this scale. So again, the numbers previously 32 black and 16 of the red, I do believe it was. But I'm just going to create all those scales. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that dragon kit out. It's a costume kit. I'm going to see which eyes I like the best. So far, I'm liking the green. Which one was your favorite? Which one would you use? Let me know in the comments down below. I ended up using the one on the left, the green. And then all I'm going to do is take some masking tape, tape it on the back of those eyes just to kind of put them in place and make sure they are nice and even and that the irises are facing the correct way. Once that happens, I'm going to put a little hot glue, but I'm not covering the hot glue or the masking tape, sorry, with the hot glue. And then what I'm going to do is add some more hot glue on the back of the mask, add some pipe cleaners on there. This is how we'll attach it to our board. Then I'm going to work on my wings. Now for my costume, the wings came with these little shoulder straps that were just screwed in, which worked out perfectly. I just unscrewed those and they had holes there already. And then I'm just going to cut that in half, put it over to the side, and now I'm going to finish off my eyeballs. And I'm trying to decide whether I want black background or white. I decided with the black, and all I'm going to do here is I'm going to just cut little circles, use the first one as a template, cut a second one, and then I'm just going to really use those to glue it in place. So I'll take that felt, put some hot glue right around the center, around the outside, and then on the center of the eyeball, and then just add it down. I'm going to do that for both sides, making sure it's nice and secure and it's not going to move anywhere on us. I'm going to put that to the side, let that totally dry for now, and then I'm going to move on. Now, what I decided to do as it was drying, I decided to change it up a bit. So I'm actually adding the pipe cleaner, just one right at the middle of the forehead, if you will, of the mask. So I'm just changing it up a little bit. Here is our wreath board. Now it has holes all the way around, so there's 3 holes, row 1, 2, and 3. And you'll notice there's 2 extra holes right at the top. That's where we can put our cable tie to hang our wreath. And this is about 15.5 inches in diameter, and it's the large wreath board. To put our cable ties, all I'm doing is I'm using row number 1, which is the outer roll, pushing a cable tie through the outside and row number 1. I'm going to click it a couple of times, and I'm still going to keep a little loop there. You can see it right there, so we can feed our deco mesh through. And I'm going to keep that end. I'm not going to cut it off yet, because that's how we're going to secure our deco mesh into and onto our wreath board. So I'm going to do this all the way around the outside. And once the outside's done, I'm going to use row number 3, which is the innermost row, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm feeding through 1 hole, and then of course on the large hole right in the center, the exact same thing, pulling until it clicks a couple of times. I'm not pulling it all the way, and I'm not cutting the excess off. So once it's all done, it looks like this. Now, don't get discouraged with all of this. I've got you covered. We will go through it step by step. It looks like a lot, but don't worry. We're just going to take it one piece at a time. So I have all of my loops all ready for my deco mesh on that first and third row. So I'm taking my deco mesh. I have all of my scales that we've created. I'm going to take some more cable ties, and now we're going to start attaching. Now, one thing to note is I would keep a note of how you're attaching your scale. So mine, the fold is going to be on the right-hand side. I'm going to feed that bundle through. I'm going to make sure the existing cable tie is on the outside of the cable tie on the wreath board. And then I'm going to pull it tight, grab my scissors, and then I'm just going to cut the excess off right there. You can kind of see here, there's 2 cable ties. One's on the inside, one's on the outside to really hold that piece of deco mesh on there, and it's not going to fold out. Now we're going to use the inside row of our cable ties. I'm going to grab black again, and I'm going to make sure that our scales are facing the same way. So for me, the fold is on the right hand side. I'm going to feed that bundle through that cable tie, making sure it's nice and tight, and then I'm just going to take my scissors, cut the excess off, and now I'm going to move on to my red. The red is going to be in the middle, and I'm going to use that middle hole, plus I'm going to use the hole that's already there as well. So there's one on row 3, one on row 1, and I'm going to alternate. So for the first one, I'm just going to add my cable tie through the middle row, and then on the inside row, that's going to be shared with the black deco mesh that's there already. I'm going to make sure my points are facing the same way. Feed that deco mesh bundle, making sure that cable ties on the outside, pulling it nice and tight, and then take my scissors, cut the excess off, and now we've got our start of our pattern, which is the 2 black deco mesh pieces and the 1 red in the middle. So again, working on the outside row, feeding that bundle through, pulling it nice and tight, cutting off the excess. I'm going to do the second black one. So I'm going to do row 1 and row 3 with the black, and then row number 2, which is the middle row, with the red. So I've already done the inside row. Now we're going to alternate between the inside and the outside. So I'm using a cable tie, going through the shared hole on the outside, and then coming back on row number 2, which is the middle row, to place that red deco mesh scale. And I'm going to continue the same pattern over and over again, alternating the red between the inside and outside row, and using the outside and the innermost row for the black. So I have 2 black and 1 red going all the way around. And here you can kind of see I'm halfway done. You can see the pattern that's coming on already. I'm just continuing on, adding those scales on there. And then here we are with our finished scale wreath. I am in love with it. I hope you are too. I mean, so far so good. We're going well. But there you have our base wreath. And halfway through, I did decide I wanted to make fire come out of the dragon's mouth. So I am using red, orange, and yellow 6-inch deco mesh. This is just Dollar Tree deco mesh, and I'm cutting it at 10 inches. And I'm going to create little bundles. All I'm doing is I'm rolling it up on an angle. So before I used to roll it up just straight up and down. This time around, I'm rolling it up on the angle. I'm not being very particular with it or very neat because it is fire after all. So I kind of want it to be kind of scraggly looking. Then I'm going to fold it down the top third, take another cable tie, just like we did with the scales. And then I'm just going to pull it nice and tight, cut it off, and we have our first bundle all made. And I'm going to make 5 of these bundles. And all I'm really going to do is on the lower half where the mouth is of the mask, I'm going to glue those bundles right down at the bottom. Once they're all nice and dry, I'm going to take my fairy lights, wrap them around the fire bundle, and then I'm going to glue the battery pack on the back, making sure that on-off switch is at the side so I can easily access it. Feeding all those cables in there, making sure everything's nice and secure, and then I turn it on just to make sure everything looks good, and I am so happy with that. Look at that fire glow. Now it comes time to attach everything, and I realized I needed longer pipe cleaners, so all I'm going to do is take a couple of extra pipe cleaners and wrap them around itself on the ones that are already attached to the back of the mask. Feed them through the back, make sure it looks good at the front hand side before I tighten it, twist it in place, cut off the excess, and we have our mask all ready to go and attached right at the back. Flipping it over, making sure I'm happy with where everything goes. Now time to attach my wings. I'm going to use the existing holes in the wings along with some cable ties. I'm going to figure out where I want it to be so you can kind of see me coming back and forth, flipping it over again. And I decided to put it right here. I'm going to feed the cable tie through the outside hole, which is also a shared hole. For our cable ties, I'm going to use 2. And for the second one, I feed it through the existing cable tie, pulling it nice and tight. And then before I really yank it tight, I want to make sure I'm happy with the placement, so I pick it up again. And then I'm just going to take some pliers and make sure it's really tight on there and those wings aren't going to go anywhere. And I do the exact same thing on the opposite side with the cable ties, making sure it's nice and even and nicely spaced out, pulling it nice and tight, cutting off the excess. And take a look at this so far. I am just smiling. And for the tail, I do the exact same thing. I kind of figure out where I want it to be placed. I'm going to use 2 cable ties to place it on there, pulling it really, really tight, and then pulling those cable ties so that tail doesn't go anywhere. And of course, you know, we have to fluff a little bit here on Dave's Recent Things. Our final result is this gorgeous black and red dragon. It is huge. It does not fit on my crafting table. As you can see, the edges here. I am loving it. I love how it turned out, and that flame just makes me, I don't know. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And those eyes, look at those eyes. But our scale wreath dragon is all ready for my front door. Here it is during the light or daytime. I'm going to turn off my studio lights and those flames just come alive, and our dragon is all ready to scare everybody on Halloween for my front door.